Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. All those people that are in the hallway or in the prayer hall, could you please come into the multi-purpose hall so that we can start tonight's program. We have some urgent business to do because we have some guests who have a time schedule and we would like to accommodate them before we go into our taqreer and prayer for the deceased. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to get into the hall and we'll move from there, inshallah.
That, or
no, I'm going. Yeah.
1 second, because the voice is not very clear.
That's fine.
So
is it loud enough? Is it loud enough?
It's loud enough, but people need to settle down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let them settle down then.
Yeah. Allow me to just make one announcement. Okay, brothers, sisters, may I have your attention? We would like to commence the session today, and I really appreciate if you can please join us in the hall, settle down. We are on a tight schedule. Some of the guests would like to leave after making their statement, so please settle down. We will be starting in a minute. Thank you.
Go. Not. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, most beneficent, most merciful. Brothers and sisters, honored guests, dear children, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wish I could say that this was a happy occasion. It's not. Well, one way it is happy and one way it is very sad. Why is it sad? Because we have lost a great humanitarian, a great leader of this community, a leader who led in the building of this organization, which is 57 years old. He has contributed enormously, but it wasn't done by himself alone. It was done. What you see here, what you see out other places, all the way from Richmond to Prince George, to Victoria, to Nanaimo, to the Lower Mainland, with the help of each one of you. And with the support of all levels of government, especially the municipal governments. I said two things, sad and happiness. Why are we happy? We're happy for the man who's with his Creator giving his accountability. He left this world with two. When you go on holiday, how many bags are you allowed to take? 1, 2, 3. If you take more than 2, you have to pay extra luggage, correct? Okay. And if you're only allowed to take 2. Here's a man who has left with 2 bags, maybe an extra one, I don't know, but one of them is very, very heavy. That is his good deeds. He has accumulated so much wealth that he has nothing to worry about, because he has contributed in the building of this organization, in the building of humanity, in contributing to the growth and success of the entire community. One municipality that I'm going to recognize tonight, and you're sitting in this municipality, and that's Burnaby. Burnaby has been a leader. Burnaby has been so cooperative. All the staff, from the elected officials to the people in the planning, engineering, approval departments. And when it came to Burnaby Masjid, nobody objected. Nobody said no. They cooperated. They made us do the things according to the law, but at the same time, they made it easy for us. That's why we have such a great facility in the Lower Mainland. And I'm going to break the protocol of having the Imam speak and the others have some prayers and stuff. But since our official guests are here and they have very short timeline, I'm going to recognize them and get each one of them to come and say a few words for the deceased, whom they knew very, very well. They met him at this masjid many times, and I can stand here and salute the man who has loved this world, not because he's my brother-in-law, but a great humanitarian, a great individual who has contributed to the growth and success of the Muslim community of British Columbia. Tonight, I would like to call upon our Honorable Mayor, Mayor Hurley. He has done the time that he has been in the office. I, as a real estate agent, I do follow his progress in approving projects all over the Burnaby city. And Burnaby city is building 3 cities within the city. One is Brentwood, one is Metrotown, and one is within the core. And it takes leadership to do that. He has one. I would call upon him to say a few words, and we're very, very pleased to have him here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dawood certainly made a big impression. I know he made a big impression on me, and I'm just going to step through some of the things that he meant to the community. And it was said that he made a big difference to the Muslim community. But let me say he's made a big difference to every community here, because he believed in multiculturalism and he believed in fairness. So he made a tremendous difference. Before I start, I would just like to acknowledge that we are in the unceded traditional territories of the Hunkamanam and Squamish-speaking people, and to give appreciation for the opportunity to share these territories. I'd also like to mention that I have 2 members of council here with me today. First, Richard T. Lee and Daniel Tatro, who's here with us today to honor the great man. You know, Mr. Ali invested 4 decades in the service of the Burnaby community. Founder of the Masjid al-Salaam, an education center, he spearheaded the project from the selection of land, raising funds, to the groundbreaking, and right through the construction phase. Along with his wife, Farida, Ali was the pioneer of the first food bank in Burnaby, which is still running strong today due to their vision and their dedication. He was a pioneer of the weekend school at Masjid, serving as chair of the Burnaby branch for 7 years. He promoted, and he truly believed in multi-faith collaboration, working with the city, our MPs and MLAs. He collaborated with Burnaby churches, for hot meal distribution for the less privileged, blanket drives in the winter, and a walkathon, which raised important funds for Indigenous children. He recently oversaw a maintenance portfolio and worked until January 6th on major upgrade work right here. Dawood Ali lived a life so well lived. He made a tremendous difference. Burnaby lost a great friend, a leader, a husband, a father, and a mentor to many, including me. I learned so much from the great man. He was always so pleased to show you around and tell you the meanings of everything that was going on in here. And he took great pride in doing that, and I felt privileged to get to know him. We will miss him a lot, and I know you all will, and to the family, to all his friends here, on behalf of Burnaby City Council, our deepest, very deepest condolences, and we will certainly miss him. I also want to send apologies to the families for being unable to attend yesterday, the service. Unfortunately, I was just booked too solid and couldn't get out. But I truly wanted to be here, but I just wanted to send apologies for that. And with that, I'm going to finish up, and may with Dawood rest in peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Hilly. I'd like to welcome our President, Brother Asif Grindle from the BC Muslim Association. And there are a number of other guests. The next speaker I'd like to call upon is our very long-term serving MLA. Now he's got a very easy job, by the way. He keeps people from fighting in the legislature. He sits there and looks around, and if he wants you to speak, he'll let you speak. If he doesn't want you to speak, he'll get the other guy to speak. So Raj Chauhan has come a long way. Raj Chauhan has also been a very active member of the Burnaby branch. Every function that we've had, he has been available or made himself available. Wherever we needed his assistance, he has been there. He is a strong member of this community, and he has definitely helped the Burnaby branch of the BCMA in meeting a number of milestones. I would call upon him to say a few words.
As-salamu alaykum. I can't even imagine, I can't even think being here and not seeing Dawood, Brother Dawood. He had been the pillar, not only for this masjid, for the entire community. As Honorable Mayor has said, his contributions are immense. His belief, his faith in multiculturalism, his beliefs and his faith in humanity, it cannot be described in few words here. I was in Victoria when my dear friend, Member of Parliament Peter Julian, called me to give me this sad news. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just some kind of misunderstanding. But no, he's gone. But what he has done in this community, the foundation he has laid for a better future for all of us, will be appreciated for a long, long time. Because the community can only be a better community with a better future when we have people like Dawood Ali. who were compassionate, passionate, selfless, and did everything in their power to make sure that people are respected, recognized, and encouraged. With my conversations with him so many times, his passion to make sure that our next generation is ready to take the leadership, what he did, is unbelievable. On behalf of my family, on behalf of our Premier, David Eby, on behalf of all our colleagues, my sister Janet Rutledge, MLA for Burnaby North is here. Please accept our sincere condolences. And I'm so sorry I could not be at his funeral yesterday because of my schedule and I was in Victoria. But again, sisters and brothers, we cannot forget what he did for us. It's our fundamental duty to make sure that we continue with his legacy, to make sure that what we do is passed on to the next generation so we will have a better Canada. And that can be only possible that if we all work together and remember what he did for us. Again, on behalf of our Legislative Assembly and our government, our condolences. He will be remembered. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj, for those kind words. Yes, Dawood Ali was an exceptional man. As our Imam said last night, he was not one of those people that will be shouting at people, as we know a few other people who would. He would stand in a corner with his hands in his pocket, looking around and seeing what was happening, but making sure that everything was under control. You know, I've known this man ever since I was a little boy. And he has always been like that. I have never heard him fight with anyone. I've never heard him shout at anybody or be physical in any way, shape, or form, or having bad relationship or creating bad relationship. If there was an issue, he was a man who very diplomatically resolved it. And he always gave good advice. He was one of the senior members of our family. He was the last one. I've lost 7, 8 brother-in-laws. And I told him the last brother-in-law that passed away last February, please, don't leave me alone. You're the last one. I cannot be without you. Unfortunately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had other plans. I'd like to call upon also a long-term MLA of Burnaby. Richard Lee has served this community diligently over the years while he was in the legislature. He would go to his office to get something done. He got it done. This time he decided to change shoes from legislature to council. He wanted to work with Mayor Hurley. So we have a very seasoned MLA with government experience now serving the city council, where he can go to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and say, this is what Burnaby needs. He cannot stop it. I'll call upon Brother Lee to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really a shock to me when I heard about the news that Mr. Ali has gone. We have known each other for over 20 years, even before I was elected as MLA in 2001. So before that, he was with the BC Muslim Association. So we met him over there as well. So I a little bit, quite shocked about that, and I heard it's quite sudden. It's in the hospital. It's a sudden incident that yes, he passed away. He has been working for the community for a long time. Of course, a true believer of multiculturalism. So he meeting people across religion boundaries and also different cultures, and we learned a lot from him. He introduced me to the learning center for some of the programs, very good for the young people to learn about the beliefs. And I think for the community, this is a big loss, and I hope someone, community will pick up the balls and continue his spirit of serving the community as well. I'm sure some of the leadership has been doing that already, but I believe that he has been a pillar in the community for multiculturalism and connecting the community. So with that, I truly my condolences to the family and the community for the big loss. And thank you.
Thank you, Richard. We all know that we're here to pay our respect to a great citizen who has left this world. We have a huge organization in British Columbia, and it's growing. The number of Muslims are growing very fast. We have a system where we have a very well-run administration. Our organization is set up with a constitution, bylaws. We have over 100, I believe 110, 120 employees in the system. So it's a huge organization. We have a new president, by the way, for the last couple of years, Brother Asad Gundal, and I would ask him to come and say a few words.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Nahmadu wa nasalli wa nasalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Honorable the parliamentarians and the city councils and respected both board men's and the women's, respected Imam, Ulama Ikram, brother and sister, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We all gathered here today on losing of one of our great brother, a lively man, which I heard today from Bob Rahman, as this brother, Dawood Ali, was like a rugby player, cricket player, hockey player, and many, many things he mentioned. And one thing which I definitely, on behalf of entire BCMA, on behalf of entire community of the BCMA, on losing him as a great leader of the organization which he serves over 50 years, definitely that's a really saddened part. And by Allah, we are all here and we have to leave the word. And a gathering like this, where initially the masjid and then the namaz was read and Qala Allah, Rasulullah was spoken. And on the close meaning of one of hadith, that in a gathering like this, where Qala Allah, Rasulullah was spoken, and a special tranquility, the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends, Sakina. And favor of this kind of gathering, the peoples who make intention for anything, and we all intend here today that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive his any shortcoming he has in his life, forgive him. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him a best place in paradise. Definitely the family has lost a father, wife has lost a husband, and kids has lost a father. And the team has lost a inspirational leader. Replacement definitely is a difficult, but we are all happy on the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we learn from our Prophet, Inna lillahi inna ilaihi raji'un, that we have to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we can only make dua, and we can especially send all our condolences to the entire board of the Barnaby, who lost a great leader, and the family as well. So on behalf of everybody, my community and the entire executive team and the entire BCMA, our condolences to the family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you, Brother Asad. One quality I'm going to tell all of you about Dawood Ali. He was very good to his family. He was really good to his children, his grandchildren, his nieces and nephews. I do remember he used to take all of them out for a picnic in the early days, 70s and 80s. And he'll cook. He's a great cook. He loves feeding people. He definitely loved feeding people. And he made sure there was more than enough food at any function. But I can attest to the fact that he was very, very good to his family. One of our key guests, Peter Julian, is on his way, or he may be delayed. We will wait for him. In the meantime, I'm going to call upon our learned Imam, Brother Yahya, to start the dua process, and then we'll go from there, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقائدنا وقدوتنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا أما بعد. Honorable brothers, sisters, visiting guests, dignitaries, you heard me speak yesterday in the Jum'ah khutbah about Brother Dawood. And for those of you who weren't here yesterday, you know, I spent just over 8 years with the man ever since my arrival here in Burnaby. And in some aspects, although he was a board member, he was far more than a board member. He was also like a father figure for me and for many other people in the community. And, you know, he was literally the definition of leading from behind, right? It's, you know, if you close your eyes and imagine any gathering over the past 15 to 20 years inside this very room, you can almost still see him standing at the back, directing people where to go, where to sit, where extra chairs need to be put. You know, there's a tablecloth missing there, there's a table missing there, there's a food item that's finished over here, you know, so-and-so has arrived and needs to be seated somewhere over here. And these were the sorts of things that, you know, as they were placing the tables and the chairs that you're sitting on over here, I remembered over the years the many events and programs that take place regularly here at the Masjid. And it was, you know, there was that you couldn't help but miss the man, right? He would be here very early in the morning, and how dare anybody put a single table or chair without his permission and without his, you know, without his knowledge into exactly which format the tables and chairs need to be put in order to accommodate the amount of people that he was expecting. And he was, you know, he could take one glance at this room over here and tell you, you know, with a very accurate estimate exactly how many people are seated over here. right? So such was his familiarity with this building, with this room, with every inch of this building, really. And it's, if there is ever an event or anything that needs to be planned, I really don't know what we're going to do, and now that he's not with us, right? That level of expertise in event planning, in the management of the crowd here at the masjid, was something that that he brought to the table. That with all due respect to the other members of the board and the other volunteers that we have over here, but there is nobody like him in this regard. And not only this, he was somebody, and I mentioned this yesterday at his home as well in the evening, that he wasn't somebody who sought recognition for anything that he ever did. And the list is very long about the things that he did and the things that he was able to accomplish. And he never sought this recognition. He wasn't somebody who, I recall last year we presented him with an award for his dedication and for his years of service. And it's almost as if we had to force him onto the stage to accept that award. So such was his humility. And I recall my last meeting with him on Thursday. In fact, I came to know on Thursday afternoon. I was here for Zohar Salah at the Masjid, and that he is admitted in the hospital. And sometimes, after being an imam for more than a decade, there is this feeling I got that I need to visit him immediately, right? So despite having other commitments after Zohar, I put those on hold, and I got in my car and I drove straight to the hospital. And unfortunately, I missed him for about 10 minutes. I met his family at the hospital. I met Brother Firoz on my way out, his daughters, his sons. And my last actual meeting with him, if you recall our famous snowstorm from just before Christmas, Friday was forecast to snow. Now realize this is a man of 78 years old, right? 78 years of age. It was forecast to snow on Friday. I was scheduled to travel on Sunday, and he came to visit me in my office on Thursday, right? He was coming back from a work site, and he came and he visited me in my office on Thursday, and he said, Imam, you're traveling tomorrow. There's forecast to be a snowstorm, so I probably won't be driving, and I just came to meet you and say salam to you before you leave, right? This is a man who's more than twice my age. And the humility that he displays when interacting with even those who are far junior to him in age, this is something that was remarkable about him, and this is something that we will all miss, and this is also something that we can learn from, right? We live in a day and age, and I often speak about this with the congregation, that every single good deed that we perform, even if there is nobody watching at that time, we make sure that somebody finds out about it via our social media, via our other channels of publicity, and we seek that recognition for the good deeds that we perform. And there are people, sadly we are losing them one by one, but there still existed people like Brother Dawood who would perform far more good deeds than many of us sitting over here, and yet would seek absolutely no recognition. Right, and I can tell you countless stories over the years of when I'm speaking to someone from a community organization, and I just have to mention his name. Right, just his name, and as far as the community of Canadians that are ethnically Fijian, that come from the Fiji Islands, Dawood is actually a fairly common name amongst the Fijian community. So there are probably a dozen or so Dawood sitting inside this room. Yet this Dawood, I just had to mention his name, and everybody would know exactly who I'm talking about. If it was in Burnaby, Coquitlam, the Tri-Cities, New Westminster, everybody would know that this is the Dawood that he's talking about. No last name required. The Dawood from the Burnaby Mosque, and everybody knows exactly who he is. So when somebody passes away, right? When somebody passes away, the Prophet ﷺ is narrated to have said, "Udhkuru mahasina mautakum," that you remember the fond attributes and the good things about those who pass away. And the reason you remember these things is so that you can take a lesson and you can implement some of their positive qualities in your life. And especially in a time where, our elders, there's a lot that you can learn from books and from teachers, but there is something to be said about, the gray hairs that one has on their head, and these things cannot be learned in a classroom. Right? So the things that your elders, they can teach you while they're still in this world, these are things that you can't learn in a classroom. So for the young people sitting over here, if your parents are alive, if your grandparents are alive, if other elders in your family are alive, I realize that many of you are very busy in pursuing your careers, pursuing opportunities in your life, but take some time out of your schedules and sit with these individuals. Sit with these individuals and learn from them. Learn from the many years that they have on this earth. Learn from the wisdom that they have to teach you. And, learn from their stories. That this is something that is, these individuals, right? Like I was talking to someone earlier today that, when this masjid was being built, right, over 20 years ago, money was not, we couldn't afford to throw it around like we do today, right? So it was not, it was not nearly, this was not, by any stretch of the imagination, we were not a wealthy branch. It was not something that, money grew on trees over here. And this was hard work, right? The people that built this building, the beautiful, magnificent structure that you sit in, this was hard work, and the younger generation, so anybody who is under 30, right? When you come in Ramadan and somebody is donating $5,000, another is donating $10,000, somebody may be donating $20,000, and lots of people are donating $1,000, and we may take it for granted that this may have always been how it was, right? That it's always been checks of 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 that were being cut. And it was, it may have been easy to build what we see in front of us. You would be mistaken, right? You would be mistaken in thinking that the community was much smaller, primarily consisted of an immigrant community that was, that was having difficulty making their own ends meet, and yet they were able to, despite their obstacles and despite their difficulties, they were able to also give back and contribute to their community, and this is the structure that you see in front of us. Right? And there are people sitting inside this room that are still alive here today, and I'm speaking to the youngsters in the audience that can tell you stories about how they were working 1, 2, sometimes 3 jobs and making ends meet, trying to provide a future for their family, and yet they were still able to build this structure. They were still able to give back to their communities. And today we have an entire generation, right, of individuals who comfortably is able to, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make far more money than your forefathers did, sitting behind a desk with a single job, 9 to 5, yet we somehow don't find the time to give back to our communities. Right? So let his life be a lesson to all of us in service, not only in service, but in selfless service to the community. Right? It's selfless service to the community, selfless service to one's family. He was being an imam and being a public figure, right? There are, sometimes people that get upset with you for one reason or another, right? And this goes with the profile. And the person who would mend relationships that may have been tarnished because of something that I may have said, or not even sometimes because of what I said, but because of the way I said it, right? He was the man, right? He would go out of his way to go and fix a problem before, he could identify this problem, and before it could grow, he would fix it, right? And we would know nothing about it. And this is something that we will miss greatly about him. And he was a people person, right? So he was, you probably don't have as many numbers saved in your smartphone as he had up here. Right? He literally knew everyone, right? And he was on a first name basis with most of these people across communities, across ethnic lines, across religious divides. He knew people in the public sphere, he knew people in the private sphere, and he had a working relationship with all of them. And he was well respected, well liked, and he has children that will inshallah carry in his footsteps, and we offer our condolences to his children, his family, his wife, Sister Farida. I was just speaking to his brother in Australia. So all of them, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of you patience during your time of grief. And for the rest of us, life is very short. If there's anything that we can take from the sudden departure of someone, it's that life is short. Right? It's too short to hold grudges. It's too short to not be on speaking terms with each other. It's too short to fight about insignificant things that won't matter tomorrow. Life is short. Use the time that you have in this world to mend any relationships that are that could be worked on. Anyone who's not on speaking terms with someone else, you need to be the bigger person and seek forgiveness of that person. And anyone who is we were talking about this earlier. I was sitting with some of the directors, and being a team, right? So any team has their minor disagreements here and there every now and then, right? That's kind of part of how teams work, right? And if there's any one regret that someone had, it's that there was something that was said in the heat of the moment, and later on that was the forgiveness was not sought for the harsh words that were said. So if there's something like that with people that are still living and breathing, the lesson that you take is that you mend those relationships, you seek forgiveness, you have a clean heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says inside the Quran, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. That on the day of judgment, your children and your wealth, they will not benefit you. The only thing that will benefit you is a clean heart, when you stand in front of your Creator with a clean heart. So this is something that we need to work on as individuals, as families, as a community, that the way that we treat and the way that we interact with each other, take a lesson from Brother Dawood, that whatever happens during the day, but at night he would go to sleep with a clean heart. And even if at times during the course of discussion there was a heated exchange, it would last for a couple of minutes, and he would fix that problem, and he would be back on speaking terms and back to normal, and even better within a couple of hours. So this is something that we need to take from him. We need to learn from him that we don't carry grudges. We don't life is too short to do that. Learn from the man. This is the way that he operated. This is the way that he conducted himself, and this is the lesson that we can take from him. And again, on behalf of myself and everybody here at the Masjid, as others have already conveyed to the family, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you patience during your time of grief, and to his children, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to follow in his footsteps, to learn from the selfless sacrifice of your father, to fill his boots, and they are very big boots to fill. To his daughters, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you comfort during your time of grief. To his grandchildren, may Allah some of whom are not even old enough to realize the man that he was, and others that are. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to follow in the footsteps of your grandfather. And there is, I will end with one thing, that there is a saying in the Arabic language, right, that istannu biman qad mat fa innal hayya la tu'manu alayhi al-fitna. So when someone is alive, right, Islamically it is bad etiquette to praise that person. the way that I am praising Brother Dawood right now. And the reason for this is the saying is that you seek an example from those who have departed from your midst, because the living are not immune to trial, right? So if you make an example of someone who is still alive, who is still walking amongst your midst, and we see this happen all the time in the celebrity culture that has become a part of our society, that young people, they idolize a celebrity, and later on when that person falters, then the entire image of that individual comes crashing down, and even the positives in that person's life and in that person's conduct, right, is washed away. So when you seek an example from somebody who has passed away, فَإِنَّ الْحَيَّ لَا تُؤْمَنُ عَلَيْهِ الْفِتْنَةِ, that the person who is living is not immune to trials and tribulations. So Brother Dawood is an excellent person to seek an example from, because he is now departed from our midst, and his entire life is in front of us. So we'll make dua for him, inshallah. I see that Peter Julian has still not arrived. Hopefully he will arrive by the time we finish our dua, and you can hear from him before dinner, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحابته أجمعين اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم واهدهم سبل السلام وجنبهم الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم سبحان الله رب العرش العظيم نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا كربا إلا نفسته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة هي لك رضا إلا قضيتها ويسرتها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Ya Allah, forgive our sins. Ya Allah, forgive the sins that we commit in the apparent, and forgive the sins that we commit in secrecy. Ya Allah, forgive the sins that we commit arrogantly, and forgive the sins that we commit foolishly, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, our brother Dawood Ali who passed away, Ya Allah, accept all of his good deeds, his contributions, his selfless sacrifices, and his service to his community, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, forgive his shortcomings and overlook any faults that he had, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, now that he has departed from our midst, Ya Allah, enable us to learn from his legacy, Ya Allah. Enable us to follow in his footsteps, the positive things and the contributions that he made to his community and to his family and to his people and to his country, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, enable us to follow in his footsteps in the selfless way that he would serve his community, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, grant patience to his family, his children, his grandchildren, his wife during their time of grief, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, enable them to pass through their time of grief, Ya Allah. Enable them to come together as a family in support of each other during this time, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, when our time comes to meet you, enable us to leave this world in a state that we have prepared for our meeting with you. Ya Allah, enable us to leave this world that we have rectified our affairs amongst each other, and we have rectified our relationship with you, Ya Allah. Wa salli Allahumma ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahabatihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.
The program is not over yet. This is just to give you a break, that the food is in front of you, you can start enjoying it, but we have other people that are going to be saying a few words. I just want to share one more thing about Brother Dawood. We all have mothers and fathers. Yes, we do. Some are here, some have left us. A number of our parents are in care facilities because life is so challenging. You know, Brother Dawood's mother was in a care facility, and here's a son who never forget her. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Jannah or heaven is under the feet of your mother. What did he said? Jannah is under the feet of your mother. 3 times. This young man used to take food to his mother every single day to the care facility until she passed away. How many of you go and see your parents in care facilities? I know of brothers and sisters who are in care facilities, they hardly see the children. And yet, Dawood Ali made a point when the time when he was supposed to take the food for his mother, his schedule was set. And sometimes when my sister was not feeling good, or she wasn't feeling well, he would cook. That's admirable. That's why I said, we have a sad situation, we have a happy situation. Happy for him because he's got a very heavy baggage. He's gone to meet his Lord. Here I am. One individual in our community who has also contributed hugely for the success and progress of this community for very many years is no other than our brother Yasin, Muhammad Yasin. And I'm going to call upon him to tell you how he worked closely with Brother Dawood and all of us in building the Muslim school, the secondary and the elementary, and the Masjid facilities. Brother Yasin.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I know it's getting to be lengthy, but I'm going to be very short. So let me just, if we have the concentration and let's stop speaking to each other. So let me give you a journey. Supposing tonight, and we will reflect how this goes to Brother Dawood. Imagine tonight when you wake up, and tomorrow morning before Fajr, and I spoke on this particular topic to raise thousands of dollars for this mosque. And you understand what I'm saying. Imagine you go to sleep tonight, and tomorrow morning Fajr, you wake up and you are in the middle of the ocean. In the middle of the ocean, there will be 3 questions that you will ask. 3 questions that you will ask in your life when you are in the ocean. First question would be, how did I get here? Second would be, what do I do? And third, where do I go from here? So, from religious perspective, you can have answers. And for fundraising, you have answers because I have raised thousands and millions of dollars here. So from religious perspective, as Muslims, or as Christians, or as Buddhists, or as Hindus, or any other faith-based, how did we come here? Simple answer, if you believe the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty sent us here. Simple answer. If you're not an atheist, if you're an atheist, that's a different issue altogether. And the second question would be, answer is, what is the purpose? Why were we sent here? What are we doing? What are we going to do next? And the answer from the Islamic perspective is akhlaq. Akhlaq is to, meaning of akhlaq in a broader term, and Imam can expand on it, is to go in a direction that is satisfying to Allah Almighty or God Almighty or the Creator Almighty. So you don't go offside and you put your foot on the thongs that you have pain and sufferings. So you try to go in a direction that is satisfying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the last one? Where do we go from here? Whatever we do in this dunya as Muslims and as Christians and as Jews, we believe in the hereafter, life after death. Whatever we do, whatever package we have in this dunya will be useful when we go to the next dunya. So let's talk about Brother Dawood. I have known Brother Dawood for many years. Most of you must have just heard that he built this mosque. But prior to that, the unique thing was myself and Hussein Dalmir and Brother Ahmed Amir Khan, we were on the road collecting money for the Richmond High School. And at that time, everybody ran away. Directors, executives, everybody ran away. And there was a pile of sand. Those who are from Muslim school here, students going to Muslim school, you better learn this history. So there was a pile of sand sitting in there, and we said, who would be the best person to resolve this issue? Only one person came to mind, Dawood Ali. So we approached Brother Dawood Ali as his residence. We told him, this is the situation. If we don't do anything, we will lose the 50,000 application fee. Sisters, shh. So we'll lose this $50,000. You know what he did? His creative ideas. He went to the city, the next day made an application for plumbing. Automatically renewal of the license. Those who were the city, I don't know whether this is applicable right now. So that's how we saved that $50,000, and that's how the small group of brothers and sisters, we built that Muslim school in 18 months, debt-free, and Dawood was the central figure in the construction of that school in Richmond. Central figure. Like here, he is a central figure for the construction, completion, and payment of this masjid. We have been on the road collecting door to door, but his creative mind and ideas, walkathon, whose idea was it, Banibi? It was Brother Dawood's idea to have walkathon to raise funds. Whose idea was the food bank? You know, you must be hearing food bank elsewhere. Banibi Masjid has the first food bank, and who's the person behind it? Brother Dawood Ali. Food bank, brothers. I mean, most of the branch chapters exactly don't even know. The first food bank is Banibi branch. Whose idea? Creative idea was Brother Dawood Ali. Regarding this mosque, I've been involved from day one before the patches. When we purchased the land, this land was contaminated with, the soil was contaminated. And in those days, 1990s, it was a big issue in terms of contamination. What to do? So we hired an engineering firm. The engineering firm came in and said, okay, you have to remove X number of soil and take it to Alberta. And that would have cost us $500,000. Now, who came up with the creative idea? Brother Dawood. What we did, and the city is sitting, I shouldn't be saying this, we went and made good terms with our neighbor. We said, neighbor, we have to remove this soil, put it here, and then later on we will fix it up. And it was through his creative ideas that this masjid was done. His creative, Imad, you should be laughing, Imad. It was your father's creative idea. We saved thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So likewise about, you know, when I went to the graveyard, Brother Firoz, when did your mom pass away? What year? 1991 was the year that we were selling graveyards at Ocean View. So when I went at White Rock, when I went to White Rock, Brother Imad, when I saw your father's grave, 2 blocks away, 2 graves away was Brother Salim Baksh, who was another pioneer of this association. And, you know, when the construction was taking, they were not eye to eye. Because Salim was always arguing, and Dawood had creative ideas. Salim has some other ideas, but we had to go with Brother Dawood's ideas. So we hope they don't end up fighting there. Just a joke, okay? Just a joke, just a joke, just a joke. So they were hard-working members. Barka Janif is equally very, I think he's in Ocean View, equally hard members of the community. The members should not forget. Brothers and sisters should not forget. Brother Dawood's creative ideas, and I'm hoping 10 of these brothers, you combine together, there will be one Brother Dawood. And he was the central figure in the completion of this masjid. Even, you know, Brother Imam said, 78, he was still doing the washroom with Brother Ahmad Amir Khan. These are the rare group of people that are fading away. You know, I was talking to Liaquat Ali, Brother Liaquat, at the graveyard. He said in 1972, and this is information to the parents and grandchildren and children, he was one of the first scout members in Fiji that was invited by the Australian Scout Committee to come and visit Australia. And Liaquat is part of it, part of the group, Brother Liaquat, right? So we go back 1972. So with this, I just make dua, say good things about Brother Dawood. I know Imad is in Ottawa doing good things. Imad, you are here now. Man, I don't know whether you can place the responsibility that he has left. I know you are doing couple of high rises right now. Every day you're talking to your dad. Make dua for him, man. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Yasin. In 1973, when Brother Dawood migrated with his family to Canada, I used to work for a trucking company and going to school at the same time. He was looking for employment. And since he was familiar with metalwork, I recommended him to the plant manager. His name was Fred Zalitsky. Fred interviewed him and hired him on the spot. And in those days, the wages were about $3.45 an hour. I have worked in this country for 75 cents an hour. In 1969. And Fred came to me after 1 week of employment. He said to me, "Who is this man?" I said, "He's my brother-in-law." He said, "Do you have 10 of those?" I said, "No." He said, "I wish I had 10 of this guy, because he was so diligent, so good, and he did his work so thoroughly, with great quality, that everybody was so impressed, and he elevated him to the next level of his pay." I'd like to introduce the children of Brother Dawood. He's got four children, 2 boys and 2 girls. One is Farah Ali. The next one is Zareen Khan, Imad Ali, and Intiqab. And of course, Shireen, the daughter-in-law, Shamim, the son-in-law, Craig, Farah's husband, and Imad. You have your family in Ottawa. I don't remember your wife's name, but anyway, he's survived by almost 8 grandchildren. He's got a young family. And every year, he had at least 2-3 functions at his home where all the family members were supposed to attend for a family gathering and family dinner. I'm now going to call upon Imad. You guys are all familiar with Imad Ali. He grew up in this province. He went to school in this province, and he's now working in Ottawa, living in Ottawa. I'll call upon him to say a few words on behalf of his dad, his family members, and the contribution that his father has made. Brother Imad.
Assalamu alaikum. I was the youth director at the mosque for many years here, and I've spoken from this spot probably 30 or 40 times in my life, but this is the hardest one I've ever done, because I always look this way, and that door right there, that was my dad's door. He would be standing right there, and if I went a little long, as it runs in our family, if I went a little long, he would always be looking at his watch, pointing at it. Even if he wasn't wearing a watch, he'd be slapping his hand like that. So he's not here anymore, so if I do go a little long, feel free to step in his place and start tapping yourselves like that. You know, when I was 5 years old, I just turned 5 years old, my grandfather, my dada, my dad's dad, passed away. And as a result of me being so young, I don't have concrete memories of him or a real great memories of who he was. And so over the years, unlike my older brother and my older sisters, I had to kind of piece together who he was through artifacts, his old golf trophies, newspaper articles, but mostly from talking to my dad and asking for stories. And you know, when I was I live in Ottawa now. I left BC, and when I was traveling here to be with the family, I started thinking to myself, like, now I am the same age today that my dad was when he lost his dad. And I have 3 children who are 5 and under. And I was thinking, you know, if one day if they're asking me about who my dad was, or if anybody's asking me about who my dad was, how I would describe him. Obviously, there's the biographical data about him moving his family to Canada and working hard and all that stuff. But what I would say about his personality, the things that maybe I found that I could learn from. Number one, my father was multifaceted, varied as a person. Obviously, he was a skilled tradesman, hard worker, worked with his hands. He could be fixing something, installing something, but at the same time, if he had to go put on a sports coat and have a meeting on behalf of the community with the mayor or an MLA or an MP, he absolutely felt and grew into that role and became comfortable. There's not a lot of people who could wear so many different hats. He was involved in social services, feeding the hungry, fixing things, building things, running his business, raising his children, involved in his community, involved with his family, and in sports and so many different things. So that's a reminder to myself to always be multifaceted and to be able to be flexible in who you are. You know, I went to, when I was in high school, my parents decided to send me to a private school, kind of a fancy private school, probably because I was a bad kid. And my dad, you know, would attend a lot of my school events. And, you know, at this school, a lot of the kids' dads were like, you know, CEOs or like big business owners or, you know, doctors and all that sort of stuff. People who had way more education than my dad. But my dad would come, he would shake hands with all the dads at any table, and he would dominate any conversation. He could talk to them about any topic, any conversation. He knew so much stuff that I would never have been able to learn in my life. And I was just so impressed. And everybody was always impressed with my dad. Secondly, I would say that my dad was a lifelong learner. You know, when my dad became chairman of this masjid, he said to me, he goes, yeah, I don't want to be the chair. I said, why? He goes, yeah, I don't like talking. I don't like talking in public. I don't like those guys who have to go up there and make speeches, which is why I have been up here so many times speaking on my dad's behalf. But it was a part of the job. It was part of something he had to do. He had to represent the community. He had to speak in front of major political leaders and business leaders and do media and be photographed for the cover of newspapers and magazines and on camera and on radio. And this was a role that he grew into. He just did it. Nothing that he was trained for. He just simply went there and was genuine and was himself. And I was absolutely so impressed that he was able to do that. Third, I would say my dad was a dedicated father and a dedicated grandfather as well. My dad and I have so many memories of my dad. You know, I had an older dad. He was almost 40 when I was born, and so I really got the benefit of spending a lot of time with him. My dad would get up at 4:30 in the morning to take me to my hockey practices. You know, my dad worked running his own business. He had to work crazy hours. But, you know, sometimes I would think, okay, he can't make it. I'll never make it to my games or whatever. And I'd look up into the crowd, and my dad would somehow be there holding coffee and watching me play. It was amazing the stuff that he was able to do to spend time with me growing up. But, you know, my dad, and this is another thing, had a lifelong passion for sports. My dad was an athlete. He played a variety of sports growing up. He was a member of a select team for cricket, for field hockey, for soccer. He refereed rugby. He was a huge fan of sports. When he came to North America, he started watching hockey, became dedicated to that. And he would obviously take us with him to games, be on the sidelines at community soccer events. In 1994, my dad took me to the World Cup. My dad and I went, and we were in Pasadena, California, at the Rose Bowl, and we were going to watch the quarterfinal between Argentina and Romania. And we were staying at the big hotel where all the Romanian fans were staying, and they were dressed in face paint and stuff. And I was a little kid; I was like 12, so I was in the pool of the hotel. And I see my dad sitting there, and then all of a sudden, my dad's not there. So I get out of the pool, I'm soaking wet, I'm looking for my dad. I was a kind of a scared kid, you know. I'm looking for my dad, and I see that he's sitting with one of the biggest soccer players in the world. George Hagi, who was the captain of Romania, he played for Barcelona at the time. His parents were staying at the hotel, so he came by to say hi. And I see my dad sitting with him in like this room, and all the Romanians had adopted my dad because he was such a nice guy and talked with all of them, and they adopted him as like this fellow fan, and they were having a great time with him, and we met so many people, and seeing my dad talk to people from all over the world, being able to relate to them, really impressed me as well. And lastly, my dad was a community leader. Everybody who has served with my dad over the last 25 years or so in various capacities in this mosque and other places in the community, it's interesting because everybody comes to the mosque just like he did because they're dedicated to the community, to building the mosque, to building the community around it. But the truth is, these guys, they really do love each other. They're like a little family. They're best friends. They got heated sometimes. I'd never seen my dad get so heated as when they had their debates in that boardroom upstairs. A lot of blood pressure medication was taken because of the fights that these guys would have, but they would always come out of it with great decisions for our community. And that's one thing. It's incredibly, I think, special that we're having this gathering in this very building that meant so much to my dad and for which he worked so hard over the course of so many years. You know, I served as a director with him, so I got to see exactly what he did. You know, he was elected by the community so many times. And so many times he didn't want to run, and he was like, no, I'm not going to. He's humming and hawing, but then somebody would get him to, and then he'd get the most votes out of anybody. But one year I got more votes than my dad. I got one more vote than my dad. It's because I brought one of my friends, and I got one more vote than my dad. And I said, you know, I got more votes than I should be the chairman because I'm more popular than you. And he said, no, it's because you're my son. Somebody voted for you, and the people who vote for me, some of them, you know, maybe you can't read or something. You know, somebody made a mistake. Basically, he was in denial. But you know, it was really a great chance that I had to see how my dad worked. My brother worked with my dad his whole life, and so he got to see my dad in his business and in his element and in his trade. And I worked with my dad here at the Masjid, where I got to see my dad in that element. And so he got to work with his sons in different capacities. And if you know my brother and I, you know how different we are from each other. And I think that kind of represents the different sides of my dad's personality and who he was. I want to say that, again, this means so much to be gathered here in this building. And we're all going to miss my dad. We're all going to miss my dad, but I think that we can take the different lessons we learned from him and apply it with the way that we interact with each other in our lives. Finally, just wanted to offer a vote of thanks on behalf of our entire family. On behalf of my mother, Farida Ali, as well as my older brother, Intiqab, and his wife, Shireen, my sister Farah and her husband Greg, my sister Zareen and her husband Shamim, all the 11 Ali grandchildren, as well as my wife Sophia, and all our family around the world who are watching on the live stream that we have set up for this event. And to my kids back in Ottawa, go to bed. But we want to say, on behalf of our entire family, thank you all for the hard work, to everybody who is cooking and spending time working all day to make sure that this event went smoothly. Everybody who's working as diligently as my dad did for every event we had in this building. And to everyone who went to go visit my dad, everyone who has been there for my mother, and everyone who will continue to be there for our family. Thank you very much. And, you know, I will only work as hard as I can to follow in the legacy that my dad left. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Imad. And it's good to see you after such a long time. Brothers and sisters, the dinner will be served in about 5 minutes. So relax. When the food team is ready to ask you to come and get your food, we will guide you. On behalf of the family, I'd like to thank all of you for coming, taking your time out to be with the family, giving them the support during this hard time. One person I forgot to thank was my sister. Yes, when you have a great husband, you got to have a great partner. She has been at his side for over 53 years. 4 children, 10 grandchildren. And she has been a great wife, a great sister-in-law, a great mother. She is now alone. But inshallah, the family that she has around her will give her all the support. Okay, inshallah. So, brothers and sisters, I also like to thank our brother, I always forget your name, man, the secretary of the BCMA, the Burnaby branch. He's a good friend. He has taken care of this function by organizing things. Thank you. I'd like to thank the people that have provided the food or prepared the food, and those who helped in the setting of the facility here for tonight's function. But most of all, thank you for coming and being part of this function. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum. That's Brother Anwar. He is the secretary of the